This isn't about perfect parenting. I am not the perfect parent.
There is no perfect parent.
No, right? And I call myself the yell less mom coach because I also don't want to say never yell. Because if we are going, I'm never going to yell again. That is just such a high, unrealistic expectation. We are going to get frustrated. We're going to get angry. It's what we do with that. But we can get to a point where we can say, I don't remember the last time I yelled,
Oh, wow.
And that is where the power lies, right?
Hi, and welcome to the Motherhood Kit. I'm your host, Yamel Belen, a registered nurse, doula, lactation expert, business owner, and most importantly, I'm a proud mom of 5. Join in weekly as I share my wisdom and dive deep with parenting experts to empower you with your very own toolkit to help navigate the ever-changing seasons of motherhood. From prenatal excitement to the real, raw, sometimes harrowing, and often hilarious sides of mothering. So whether you're seeking guidance, camaraderie, or just want to lighten your load with loads of laughs, the Motherhood Kit is your safe space to connect, learn, and thrive. Let's dive in.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Motherhood Kit podcast, your go-to space for all things motherhood and thriving. And today we're going to talk about something that may be difficult for you to hear: how to yell less, how to manage tantrums. But it may be refreshing for you to learn that there are some tools that you can add to your toolkit for us to be able to navigate challenging times as moms. I'm joined by Claire, who is a certified parenting coach, and she's known as the Yell Less Mom Coach. Did you even know that a parenting coach existed? Well, now you know. So let's dive into this amazing conversation. I cannot wait for you to hear this. Hi, Claire. Welcome to the Motherhood Kit podcast.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I so appreciate it. I was telling you off air how the reason why, unfortunately, I'm going to be transparent. I'm very honest. This is a non-judgment zone. I'm a mom of 5 and I'm also a Latina. So I do speak loud, at times. But my little girls have brought this up to me many times, that of yelling. And I guess, of course, my phone is always listening. You popped up on my Instagram or my TikTok feed, and your messaging was so clear to me about yelling when, it has more to do with me than what is happening with them. And I don't feel like I'm yelling at them, but of course, this is all about improving in our motherhood journey. So I was like, okay, I got to get Claire on the podcast and we got to talk about it. But before we dive in, I would love for you to introduce yourself and please tell our audience about what you do in regards to being a parenting coach.
Okay. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and I'm so glad you found me, because that messaging that I'm putting out there really is important to me, because I want to just start off with, because that was me. I'm also a stepmom. Mom of 4 kids. They're now grown and flown. But my journey started back in 2003 with me watching the phone that I threw fly across the room. Like I chucked it, and it was like I was watching the phone slow motion. Right?
Yeah.
But meanwhile, my mind was racing, like, what just happened, And so I hit the side of the wall, landed on the ground, and I looked down. I saw my now 27-year-old, who was 5 at the time, looking up at me with these big green eyes, and I looked at him, and time just stopped, because it was me at 5 looking at my mother in her rage. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it was just, I have to do something. If I am going to have any kind of real relationship with my kids, I have to change this relationship with rage.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I don't know, I didn't have a parent coach. I didn't have Shefali and Google, all of those things, right? So that is why I do what I do now, because I was able to change those generational patterns of people pleasing, the high expectations, all of those things, and become the mom that I really wanted to be and have the real relationship with my kids. I want to say too, this isn't about perfect parenting. I am not the perfect parent.
There is no perfect parent.
No, right? And I call myself the yell less mom coach because I also don't want to say never yell. Because if we are going, I'm never going to yell again. That is just such a high, unrealistic expectation. We are going to get frustrated. We're going to get angry. It's what we do with that. But we can get to a point where we can say, I don't remember the last time I yelled,
Oh, wow.
And that is where the power lies, right? So fast forward to what I'm doing now is I really do what I do because I really don't want another mom walking around in that guilt and that shame and just worry and the feelings of failure that I did for so long. I wanted to know that, you know what, you have a right to be angry.
Right.
And it wasn't really until about 4 years ago that I started using the word rage. Because, like, let's be real, there's rage, right? I'm not saying that. I want to normalize it. Or yelling. You're not a bad parent if you're yelling. It's likely that you don't have skills, that you just didn't learn the skills.
Yeah.
Yelling less is more about skill than it is about will. Like, I promise I'm not going to yell today. And then by 8:30, you're screaming your head off, right?
I think also for a lot of us, I know for me, there are triggers.
Yes.
And we need to be better at recognizing that and my audience knows me really well by now. We're in season 7 and I like tidiness and order. So like I can feel myself, like I can feel my skin kind of crawling when I look around and the house is not tidy and that puts me in a bad mood. So I have to be honest with myself. First of all, they're kids. There is going to be mess.
Yep.
So I have to be honest with myself in those moments. And I know that you're going to share with us even more tools that I have to kind of like take a breath and maybe like, okay, let me step out for a little bit, collect my thoughts, and then come back in so I don't completely lose it. And also give myself grace that I may be having a super rough day. I'm a person. I want my kids to not see me as a robot and think that they need to be perfect all the time. But I do like your feedback of like, yell less.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's lose it a little bit less. Let's keep their little happy bubble happy, you know, because sometimes they don't even know why we're yelling. It could have been we got off of a very hostile business call or heated business call or had a difficult work day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you, when clients approach you, fellow moms, fellow parents, how long do they typically work with you?
That's a great question. So as a parent coach, the work that I do is not the same as therapy. I just want to put that out there, right?
Okay.
There is a difference between, coaching and therapy, and I'm very mindful of that. However, I will say that coaching can feel very therapeutic because there's a lot of processing, right? They're talking about what's happening. So it's really a strength-based focus. Let's look at what's going on for you. And let's decide, like, you have to decide where you want to go. Coaching is a very collaborative process, but I take information from you. My job is not to tell you how to parent. I mean, that's not what I do. You know your kids, your family better than anyone else. That is not my place to come in and tell you what to do. That would be more like consultation, right? Consulting. But I will come in, I will take your information, and I can see things perhaps that you can't see. And so I will hold this space for you. I know that moms just love having that space, that be in a non-judgmental place. One of the first things I'll say to parents when they either on the consultation call or sometimes the first call, say, you know what, I want us to say that you are not a bad parent for being here.
Yeah. You're a great parent because you're finding your resources.
Exactly. And inevitably, they start to cry because they feel like, because I have to ask for help, I must be a bad parent. I'm doing something wrong. It's so opposite, right? And so we move in the direction of where do you want to go? And so I can offer perspective. I can give you insights. I will give you strategies and tools that are usually proven to work. And I will always say, there's not do these 5 things and you're good to go. Because if we had a checklist, we'd all be doing this great, right?
Yeah.
But it is very geared towards your family, the uniqueness of your family, your values, like your desires, like what your specific challenge is. And the last thing I'll say about that is parents will often say, well, do you come see my kids? Like, talk to my kids? And I'm like, no, right? Because we're coming from the parent perspective. And when we actually address what's happening for us, it has to start there. If we come in from this is the child problem, let's fix our kids. Like, where's the responsibility here, right? But that can be hard for parents to face. But a lot of parents are aware enough that, like, yeah, I think I might need to do something. Like, something needs to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. We start there.
Yeah. Oftentimes I have moms sitting with me too that are like, I'm so worried. I'm a bad mom. And and I'm like, no, actually you're not. Just the fact that you are worried about being a bad mom tells me that you're not. You're doing some self-reflection. You're wanting to do better, be better. I have shared a lot here on the podcast where one of the things that I wanted to change and change how I was raised, right, with my kids is apology. I never heard, and I feel like it has been so healing for me because I'm changing that in my cycle, right? And then my kids can then go ahead and do the same with their kids.
Right.
So even with the yelling, we had a transparent. So the little girls asked me this morning, because I said, we're driving to school and I'm like, well, today I have this, and I'm recording for the podcast. And Juliana, who's my 11-year-old, said, well, who are you recording with? What are you doing? And I said, well, actually, I'm talking to Claire, who's a parenting coach, and we're going to talk about yelling. And she was like, And I said, let's talk about this. So you really feel like I'm a yeller? And she said, well, yeah, sometimes, but I know that you're not yelling at us. Sometimes you're just passionate, she said.
Oh,
and
wow, what a reframe. Yeah.
He's listening to me, right? Because I tell them, like, sometimes when they're running around, they get the zoomies. I'm like, I know you guys are really passionate right now, but we need to take a break. So I said, I'm growing too, just like you're growing. You're 11 and, you just turned 11. A lot of you just turned 9. Mommies don't stop growing. I'm growing.
I love that.
And I'm trying to not only help myself, but by me recording this, I can help other moms. And they were both in the backseat like, okay.
Oh, I love that. I love
so
that.
They're going to call you. Yeah. They're going to call you, Claire. When I stop yelling, they're going to be like, Claire, we need to send you a thank you card. But I want to be transparent here because I don't want anyone listening to the Motherhood Kit thinking, oh, well, Yamel's so experienced. She's been doing this for over 26 years, parenting, mothering. I still have a lot to learn. So you do too, if you're listening.
100%. Yes. And it never stopped. Parenting might change. Like the way you show up as a parent might change. Like my kiddos are adults, they're all grown, they're all doing their things, right? But it's still a journey, parenting, right? We still have triggers. I mean, I just experienced something a few months ago with one of my kiddos when I took Noel, take them out to lunch or dinner for their birthday. And it's a long story. I won't get too much into it, but they had a tone in the way they said something to me. They were frustrated, right? They were frustrated and they said something. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I went into like this very triggered state of what it was like to be yelled at when I was a kiddo, right? Because 2 days later, I'm like, oh, I feel weird. I feel off. And I was able to identify what the trigger was. And it was the way he spoke to me at that time. Now, at that point, there's more I can talk about, like, do I have to approach him and all that kind of stuff. My point is we're always navigating the emotions that we have, our own triggers, our own, like, what the emotional memories that we have that are stored in our bodies, that sort of thing. But when we have the ability to know how to do that, that trigger that happened before I did this work probably would have stayed with me for who knows how long, right? I was unaware of it, but I was aware. I could feel it in my body, like something's off. I feel like something happened. What happened? And I was able to go back, like, oh, there it is, and then I can navigate that. That's what I call the letter A of assessing. This is in my CARES approach to parenting, is really being able to reflect and ask the right questions about yourself. It's self-reflection.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're asking questions, what's going on with me? Like, why was that so upsetting to me? Like, and then when you start to figure it out, then you go, do I need to set a boundary? Is that something that's really important to me? Right. And then it really gives us the ability to own what's ours and make decisions moving forward in a more effective way with our child, right? Who has their own, this is the second A, right? The second A of CARES is like, our children are having experiences of their own that really have nothing to do with us.
Yes. You're right.
And if we can separate that, like that was mine, and they're, behaving in a way that I don't love, right? But what's going on for them? What is their experience? And when we have that ability, we can go, okay, we have so many more possibilities of what we can do next. That makes sense? So
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that parenting is a journey. Yes. Like you said, it's a journey, and we're on this journey together with them. And one thing that, and I hear it a lot now, I love that people are talking about it more, that when our kids are in a bad mood, to remember, like, they are a person too. They're allowed to have a bad day, just like we have a bad day. And sometimes parents, especially, growing up You couldn't talk back. You couldn't be
No.
in a bad mood. You couldn't and my mom is still a yeller. So I know she listens to the podcast and she spends a lot of time with her grandkids, but she'll tell them like, I'm not yelling at you. Like, you guys know I just talk loud or whatever. And I even get triggered by her raising her voice. Let's reframe that a little bit because I feel like I'm putting her down and I'm not. I love you, Mom. But when I do hear about parents losing it, Claire, or like having a hard time, most of the time we hear about toddlers, and I hate the term, or I should say I dislike the term terrible twos and three-nager and all that. But we are hearing about that. I feel like that is a very challenging time. Honestly, I don't know if I blocked it out of my memory, but I don't remember it being challenging with my 5. I kind of love that stage. They're so cute. I do remember hearing a lot of no. That's when they get into like their no. But when it comes to toddlers specifically and tantrums, which I feel like my girls aged 11 and 9 have just as many tantrums at times as toddlers can. What do you feel is really happening in their brains during these emotional outbursts, which that's what they are. A tantrum is an emotional outburst.
Oh my gosh, there's so much there. First, I want to go back real quick about when our kiddos are not having a good day and they're not happy. One of the things, I have an ebook out there, 3 reasons why you might be yelling. And the second reason is because we feel responsible for their happiness. If our kiddos are not happy, then we're doing something wrong.
Oh my God, that's a big one.
Right? And then we just do all the things. And then what happens when they don't get happy?
Yeah.
We're like, wait, what? I'm doing all these things for you and I'm exhausted, and we're yelling, right? So really getting comfortable with the discomfort that a kiddo is not happy, letting them have the emotion that they're having. It's hard to watch your kids struggle. It just is. Of course, we want to make them feel better and do better and all of those things. Safety. However, when we try to stop that emotion from happening, we're actually stopping them from learning the skill of navigating hard times or navigating stress or navigating a big emotion, right? We want to help them get through that. One of the top things I'll hear also from parents with toddlers especially is like, how do I stop it? How do I get them out of it? And they think that's the goal. And I say, no, you go through it with them.
Yeah.
You need to go through it with them. You need to let them finish it. Now, do we offer safety and presence? And that's, of course we do, right? But our goal shouldn't be to stop it. Now, here's the thing, especially with toddlers, it's exhausting, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we're not taking care of ourselves. And there's the self-care word. That's it. I don't know about you. Do you feel like self-care is like overused? How do you listeners feel about self-care?
Yeah, it is overused. And we've talked about it on the podcast a lot. And one thing that I try to remind fellow moms is that self-care can come in many different ways, and it doesn't have to be elaborate, doesn't have to be a spa day. I've been transparent here where I say self-care for me is sitting in my car quietly and scrolling my favorite app or, online shopping. It is because I think a lot of times we're waiting for this grandiose event in order to say, oh, I had self-care, vacay, time with girlfriends. No, it could just be locking yourself in your bedroom and watching Real Housewives.
Yep. Yeah. Right. So the third, one of the top reasons also is we're putting everybody else's needs before our own. Like I would love to ask how many people here have had to go to the bathroom for an hour before they go because their kid needs something, right? Go. Your kid's a little upset. They're going to be fine. Go take care of your basic needs, right? But we're doing everything first and then we're like losing our mind because we haven't eaten, we haven't peed, we haven't even brushed our hair, right? So to go back to the tantrums, the emotions, basically that's what they are. Our kiddos, especially the toddlers, they're one big emotional brain. Like they literally don't have the thought process to be able to navigate that. And so if we can just accept, okay, this is where they're at. Is it hard or easy? Yes, it can be really hard. However, that's where the letter C is learning how to catch yourself, right? And learning how to call out, yeah, this is really frustrating. Acknowledge that it's hard. I think sometimes parents feel like, I feel this is so hard and I'm so annoyed. I must not be a good parent. I'm supposed to be gentle and calm.
Or I'm supposed to not be annoyed. You can be gentle and still be annoyed.
Yes.
So
right?
Juliana was having a period of time, which as a nurse, I knew it had to do with a hormonal shift where tearfulness was all the time and like getting upset at her sister, lots of grunting, pouting. So when she would have those episodes, I would say, it's fine. Like you can feel like that. You need to go and have some time to yourself. Go have some time to yourself in your room. And she would sometimes get upset. Like, what? Why do I have to go to the room? Like, Alana's the one making me upset. But I would say, no, G, it looks like you need some time alone. And 30 minutes later, she would come out and I was like, you feel a little bit better? You know, because you're allowed to feel how you feel, but that doesn't mean that I have to be, you know, beat up by it. Now, with toddlers, I know it's a little bit different. We have to still provide constant supervision because they're little. But I don't know, you tell me what you think. What we would do is like, of course, get down to their level. And I don't think I was so woo-woo gentle back then. I don't, because, you know, now mines are older, but I would be like, what do you need? Like, are you hungry? Because, you know, sometimes like we get hangry. If we get hangry, they get hangry. So are you hungry? Would you like, you know, give them different offers? Do you need a hug? Do you need mommy to lay with you? Like give them some resolution, I think. And if none of those apply, just, okay, we're going to let this ride out, this emotional response.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. And I think the more you do that, I'm sure you found with all of your kids, they're completely different, right? So like
all of
the way that so really understanding what the stress responses are. So one of the things I do with parents really break down this terminology to very simple pieces. First thing, starting with emotional zones, red, green, blue, right? And where do you go? Understand your stress responses. What happens when you're there? How do you feel? Your kiddos have them too. Right? And then the other part is how when you want to regulate. I've started saying the word regulate more than calm because I think calm sometimes like gentle conjures up images of rainbows and unicorns and everything should be fine, right? But regulation is more like think to a point where you can think clearly enough to make a decision to move forward in a more effective way. You don't have to like what's happening.
Yeah.
But you can think clearly. That's regulation. And so what helps you get there? But with our kiddos, being able to figure out what actually does help them too, right? So like you said, is it the hug? Is it the needing some space to yourself? Like all four of mine were vastly different in how they needed support during that time and being able to figure that out. That takes practice, trying things out. But I will say one of the key mistakes I think parents make in an effort to help is they actively engage when the kiddos are actively upset. So if we're outside the green zone, the brain is in a fight or flight or freeze state. It is not thinking clearly. It is literally in a response of like, danger, I need to be safe. And one of the things that can activate that even more is more noise.
Oh,
so
yes.
If we're like, hey, it's fine, we need this, and we're just constantly that interaction. I don't know how many people heard their kids just go, stop.
Yeah.
That is your clue. Like they're flooded. Like we need to.
Yeah. And a lot of times regulating is just removing them from the environment. I see so many moms and I always want to like give them a hug, right? But I try not to look their way because I know that they are feeling embarrassed. A tantrum in the middle of a store, tantrum in the middle of a restaurant. And I want to turn to them and just say like, it's okay, girl. Like we've all been there, but sometimes they're trying to let them, I feel, work through the tantrum while being around a whole bunch of other people. And it's just escalating. And what we used to do, and my husband and I would take turns, if it did happen, it would just be like, okay, well, all right, well, Juliana had enough. So we're going to go to the car for a little bit.
Yeah, perfect.
And the girls would immediately be like, no. And, no, that's okay. You're not in trouble. We're just going to the car and we'll be back. We're going to take a break and we'll be back. So I think, like you said, like resetting, regulation, not trying to be like, stop doing that. Don't do that. Because their little brains I don't think they know how to react to that just yet.
Right. Exactly. I love that. And one of the things, parenting in front of an audience is one of the hardest things to do.
Oh my gosh.
Right. When you're parenting in front of an audience, whether it be in the parking lot or it's in the store or it's the fun family and friends, and all of a sudden like, if we can remember, see, this is one of the things too, when we practice these things and talk about these things outside of the moment, we want to think about what would I do? What will I do when this happens? So when this happens, then I'm going to do this. And just kind of play it out in your head. So when we're in the store and they're freaking out, then I'm going to do this, or whatever the case may be. And you can, so when we're handing in front of an audience, what ends up happening, we get triggered too. So now we're out of the green zone, right? And we're like going, oh my God, kid, you're embarrassing me. And like, what do they think about me? And I got to parent you from what they think I need to do. And then we miss the mark. So we want to be able to put the blinders on. Okay, this is not fun.
Hyper focus.
Look at my kiddo. What do they need? Like, this is the letter A. Like, separate. What does my kiddo need right now? And so sometimes that might be, can you excuse me for a moment? I need to take care of my child right now.
Yeah.
If that's not possible, it's like what you just said. Excuse me for a moment. We're going to go over here so I can take care of my kiddo for a moment. And then you can separate from that.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that. Getting there, right? Getting to the point of quote unquote raising your voice or yelling. And I was even, when I was doing research for this episode, even in Psychology Today, they talk about, hey, like, first of all, like you said, you're not a bad parent. Second of all, yelling is a emotional response. So let's get that clear. But we know many parents resort to yelling, and probably they're nodding as they're listening to this. Why? Tell us about the impact of yelling on your child's emotional development.
Yeah, I always hesitate. I don't hesitate, but I want to take this gently because I know for myself, even though I know this stuff, when I hear it, I go, oh gosh, I really wish I knew this stuff when my kids were younger.
Anyone listening, I don't want you to feel like you've done this harmful thing that can't be undone. If you just yelled before you listened to this episode, remember, this is about us. You know, it's a journey. So you can yell less now after listening to this. Yeah,
because even I'm in the industry and I still go, and I'm like, Claire, everything cool, your kids are good, like whatever. But the impact really, I think, and I know from my own kids, when we were my brain going everywhere where we can go with this right now.
So much information.
I know. I want to offer the hope that even if you have yelled, or maybe you've been yelling for a while, whatever age, it is never too late. Because when you start doing the work and you're working on yourself and you're understanding more of yourself, why am I yelling? Your emotional trigger. What eventually ends up happening is you have conversations like you do with your children. I've had them even in their 20s and going, oh, that was not my finest moment. I'm so sorry about that when I realized something. And they're like, oh, wow, thank you so much for that. I mean, it's powerful, right?
That's healing right there. So even if you did make a mistake, like you're healing that part of their experience with you.
Yes. So even though I might have been part of that problem back here, being able to be in a place like I actually see what happened, and I'm so sorry. That was me, that wasn't you. But when we're in that place, when we're yelling at our kiddos, and maybe, here's the thing, yelling works. Sometimes yelling works, right? A lot of times it does. Kids just,
Let's say they're in danger, they're about to touch something hot, they're about to cross the street. Those are the moments, and that's what I tell my mom, right? When she's with all my little girls, and then my brother has 4 girls, she raises her voice and she says, well, I'm just trying to get their attention because they're loud. And I tell her, well, if you're constantly speaking at this level, but you need to tell them something serious, because now they've learned that this is your level. My kids know that my level, if it does get a little high, is because I am serious. I already told you 10 times to stop playing. You're going to hurt yourself. The girls, when they get the zoomies, you're going to hurt yourself, or you're scaring Nesta. And if I do raise my voice, since I don't do it that often, even though in their eyes it's super often, I get their attention. But imagine if I yelled for everything, even to say, oh, your book bag is in the way, or put on your shoes. If I yelled for every encounter, then when I do need to yell for them to take action, like they're in danger, they're not going to hear me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right. You're training them that when I just did a class yesterday, listening made simple, and what listening is and is not, and where the mistake we're making, and when we're yelling, we're actually training them. That's the time to listen. And so, yes. And also, if you're yelling for them, don't touch that. That's a different type of yell than like that pressure cooker yelling.
Yeah.
Right? Or even the frequent flyer yelling. I call it like the pressure cooker yeller. Are you the one that has the agitation and then all of a sudden, boop, like that mind blown emoji, right? Or are you the frequent flyer that you're just kind of yelling all day long, right? Or you might even be what I call the ice box, where you're not yelling, you're shutting down. And the silent treatment is just as harmful as the yelling, right?
Oh.
So the yelling impact it really impacts the emotional well-being of our kids, because they end up, again, one, what we talked about earlier, is shut down their emotional process, right? And it shut down the safety that they feel, the safety of just like their nervous system level of like, I need to keep it together in order to stay safe, right? Because if I do anything, they'll yell. Like it really does. It has so many negative impact in that way of just impact, and it causes disconnection. And so I really say these gently. I really am careful. I don't want mom walking around like, oh no, I've completely messed them up. But if we can really understand the impact, like why it would be important to, get to a point where you can yell less, but really it gets to the point where we talk about why are you yelling? And so one of the things I talk about too is that, people, what you hear is like, okay, you just have to take a pause and take a deep breath. Right? I remember doing a talk one time, catching yourself, you just choose to stop and take a pause. And they're like, that's great, Claire, but how do we even do that? I'm like, that's a very good question, right? Because I was throwing that phone lickety split. Like there's no pause happening there. So I think that's the question. And that's what I teach is how do you find that pause?
Yeah.
Because so many times by the time we're yelling, we think it's just happening. But there are so many signs and signals and things showing you that you're going there. And that's when we can get in touch with that. That is when we start being able to catch ourselves before we actually have to catch ourselves, right?
Right.
And that doesn't mean we're feeling great and everything's awesome. It can be like, I'm not happy right now. And also, what do I need to do so that I can move forward in a different way? That's the power right there.
So that was going to be my next question to you, is some strategies for when we're in the heat of the moment and either with a toddler with a tantrum, which is the most common thing that we think about. But like the example that I gave, school-age children have tantrums, teenagers have tantrums. So your first strategy you would say is take a pause, take a deep breath. So like almost like reset. And what other strategy would you say after that?
I think the first strategy, I'm going to be really honest, is learning how to take the pause. I'm gently kind of pushing back, and it makes it sound so simple.
Yeah.
But taking the pause is not that simple. That is actually a skill. We have to learn like when to take the pause. Sometimes we're too far gone into the red zone to take the pause. Like we're already there, So, but when we learn the skills of how to do that, yes, that first part would be choosing to stop. Like you recognize I'm going to the red zone. I'm feeling this urge. Like I found out when I was doing this work, my husband actually pointed it out to me that, do you know that right before you like really kind of lose your cool, you stamp your feet? And I went, what? I was like, what are you talking about? But it's true. Like that's energy trying to get out, right? But we're not paying attention to that. That energy is just building.
Yeah.
And then the kiddo bonks you on the nose, boop, like you're just over it, right? So it's really being able to catch yourself, like I'm getting there. What do I need to do, right? So the 3 parts of C, choosing to stop. This is where I teach the skills of recognizing that, like learning how to find the pause.
Yeah.
Second part is calling it out. We have to acknowledge how frustrated we feel. Because they're like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. I push it down. It's
I love that you said, just say, I'm not happy right now.
No, I'm not. It's okay. It's valid and it's real. There's nothing wrong with you. You're still a good parent. The key point there, I will say, is we want to make sure that we're saying, I am feeling, not you're making me feel. Because when we do that, we're giving the power away again. We're leaving our power, right? So this is how I'm feeling. It's valid and it's real. You have the right to feel that way. The third part, though, creating space is what do I do to help me get back to a regulated state, right? Not like, yay, but we can be like, okay, I'm not happy, but I can think clearly to know that I have something I need to do. What can I do? And that moves right into the letter A. But in that space, we're either taking that deep breath or like you said, I need to step outside for a second or a drink of water, like whatever it might be, just to continue that pause long enough for you to think, what can I do now? And that goes right into the letter A of assessing in the moment, right? So it really is a very powerful step. Once you learn that skill, you will find yourself yelling less.
I love this. I love this conversation. And I think that there's so many layers to it. And I feel like you're definitely going to be a repeat guest because there's much more for us to talk about in regards to us just improving in our mothering journey. Thank you so much, Claire, for lending your voice to this conversation. I know that whoever's listening, I think, has some tools to be able to yell less even today and handle some tantrums. But if you need additional help, you're not a bad mom. So we're going to link some info on how to connect with Claire on a deeper level so that you can achieve your parenting goals.
Yeah.
Thank you,
so
Claire.
much, Father. Thank you for having me. It was great. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Motherhood Kit. I hope that you're leaving with some valuable insights on how to yell less and that you know now what's going on with tantrums. And it's just an emotional outburst for our kids. But most of all, I hope that you recognize that even if you did do some yelling recently, you are not a bad parent. You are not a bad mom. There's always a chance for us to reset ourselves and navigate differently in this journey. We're in this together. Let's continue the conversation. I love to chat. Connect with me on Instagram at Yamel Belen. You can also connect with me on TikTok at The Motherhood Kit or on YouTube. Your thoughts and your feedback is so valuable to me. If you have anyone that you would love to hear on the show or a topic that maybe we haven't touched on yet, send me a note. Thank you for being part of this amazing community. Let's continue to hold hands in this season of motherhood. Until next time.